In my last video, I shared some creative FL Studio tips, but a few of you suggested a better method for one of them that I didn't even know about. I used the Edison to create those textural atmospheres and pads, but it turns out there's a different method that yields much better results, and that's what I want to show you in this video. So I got on a call with two friends who wanted to teach me all about it. Eddie, our recent Discord Community Challenge winner, and Alphonse, who used to work at ImageLine. Many of you guys know them from both our Discord server and the forums. Anyway, I learned a ton from them, and I want to share some of the highlights with you so that you can use this tool to its full potential. It's all focused on a fascinating way to use the fruity Convolver plugin, which is available in all editions of FL Studio. I've covered the basics of this plugin in a separate video. You can use this to recreate the reverb sounds of real spaces or even expensive hardware devices. The normal way to use this plugin is to simply load it up on a track, blend in a bit of the wet level, and you can find yourself with a very natural sounding reverb. Of course, you can go into the presets and select different devices and spaces. For instance, we've got a spring reverb now, which sounds really funky and interesting. If I go back into the presets, I can choose a small room. So while it can be used to simulate these real world spaces, this is where I missed a trick. There's two simple presets here, blur pink and blur white. And if you select either of them, now it's swapped the impulse response for a stereo white noise file and a volume envelope. And this blurs any sound that you put through it. So whether that's MIDI on a VST synth, recorded audio, or even if you want to perform through it, this gives you the flexibility to do that with a few extra cool tools to shape the sound. I like running synthesizers into this, but I want to quickly show you what this sounds like on some live guitar, because this is quite a common way to create these sorts of pads. So I've got my electric guitar on input 1 here, and I'll just play some chords and some notes, and you'll see what sort of effect you can get with this. So the raw tone just has a little bit of compression. Very simple. And if I blend in the wet signal, turn down the dry, you can hear it just blend everything together. It can be really nice to add single notes on top of your chords, just to sort of change the emotion and the style that you're going for. But you have to be very careful to avoid scratching because it starts sounding awful. I should also mention that I've used the equalizer here to cut away a little bit of the low end, but I'm going to show you more of these settings and how to adjust the envelopes later on the synthesizer example, because I wanted to show you my favorite way to do these sort of guitar pads, which is actually using this free plugin, Valhalla Supermassive. There's a preset in here, in fact there's a few good ones, the massive section called Billions and Billions, and if I play this here, and I turn the mix all the way up so there's no dry, and I cut out the lows a little bit, I just think this one sounds absolutely heavenly. So I'm not saying there aren't other and better ways to create guitar pads like this, but the Convolver certainly has a unique tone that I couldn't get out of most reverbs. I'm working in headphones at the moment, and a few people have asked me whether the VSX are good or useful for tracking, and I'm really enjoying them because when I've got it set up in a room like this, as I'm recording, I'm hearing the sound sort of placed in front of me and in stereo. But I must say, if I'm looking to do stuff that needs a metronome and is very locked in, I will just put it straight back onto the headphone modeling, because that gives you that sort of close headphone sound that I'm much more familiar with when tracking. Now I know we don't all have access to a guitar, so this time I've loaded up a free synthesizer. I've got a simple soft pluck sound like this. I find this works really nicely, it gives you a smoother result. Let's take a listen. And it doesn't really matter how and where you play, so I really like arpeggiating, because it sort of gives you a blend of low and high, and then you can just mix in whichever notes you want. And it doesn't even matter when you play those extra notes. Again, it all just gets blurred together. But this would be a great time to show you the volume envelope. So if you press this button here, now this is basically your attack and sustain and release. So if I pull this up here, it blurs immediately. If I pull it all the way down, so you can adjust the attack and release so that the blur just holds for a long time or cuts away quite quickly. Another important aspect is the equalizer. So this is an interesting way to visualize EQ, but you basically draw the curve you want. So this would be just some mids and some high end. And then I can adjust it so that I cut the high end out. And we've got just the lows and mids. So I like cutting the lows out of most of the sounds and drawing something like this. But something I've really been enjoying doing with synths is blending in a little bit of the dry signal and adding more effects afterwards, like delay, because one of the drawbacks of convolution is that it doesn't capture all of the modulations. So I've just prepared this really simple arpeggio here, blending in some wet. It's just creating this nice texture with a little bit of movement from the delay. But I want to talk about mixing these atmospheres and pads, because what this was designed for was just to support these two guitars I have here. You love the sound of it and you want it to be front and center in the mix, but I often find these sound best if you play them much, much lower. So you want to get it at a level where when you turn it off, you miss it, but when you turn it back on, you don't notice it too much. It's a little bit more subconscious. And to help me with this, I like switching between different rooms and different systems. And this helps me get the right level. But I think that's about right. So when I just turn this off, everything becomes quite bare. But when I add it back in, we've just got a little bit more sort of almost emotion under the track. It takes it from just a very, very simple demo recording to something with a little bit of feeling, a little bit of emotion underneath it, something that could maybe turn into a song. Even if these pads and atmospheres are of no use in your production, definitely give the Fruity Convolver a try. It's a low CPU option for generating incredible reverbs, and it is my favorite reverb in FL Studio, which is why I'm so surprised I didn't even see those two blur settings in there. So if you want to learn more about different types of reverb, I definitely recommend watching my reverb masterclass, where I talk through algorithmic, convolution, all these different types of reverbs. It's great these days, we can just grab all of them, test them out on the same audio, and then just quickly pick the one we like the most. Also, a big thank you to Eddie and Alphonse for showing me this technique so that I could share it with you too. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you have a great week, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.